thank you so much for being on. I'd like to start with a bigger overarching question, which is when people hear the name Arlan Hamilton, what do you want them to feel?
I want it to be a good feeling. I want it to be like a pleasant, positive feeling, and maybe someone that seems like inspirational in the fact that I'm just like them, and I have been able to kind of go through some seemingly insurmountable odds and come out on the other side of it doing pretty well, but at the same time still going through it. And so I want to feel relatable, and I always want to feel relatable. That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that is something that I can confirm personally that you are and are inspiring through that. Starting from the beginning, I think everybody always loves to hear the come up and, what happened and all the steps in between. But what were you like as a child or growing up really young? I know that I was hearing on a couple of podcasts that used to wear 3 watches on each arm, and we're really curious, but what were you like?
Yeah, so I have a new book called It's About Damn Time, where I talk a little bit about that time in my life. Where I talk about that time. So as a kid, I think I was a little out there. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's hard for people to know what they were like as a kid, really. But I feel like I always felt like a little bit of an outsider, and sometimes a lot of bit of an outsider. At the same time, felt very comfortable being around different types of people. I don't know how comfortable they were with me, but I felt very comfortable around other people, like a lot of people, like from different backgrounds and all sorts of. To me, it did not matter your race, your finances, any of those things didn't really matter to me. As I would hope they don't matter to most kids. And I also didn't really play into any kind of the politics of like the hierarchy at school or any of those kind of different places you put people, pigeonhole people. So I had a lot of different types of friends, and I remember being friends with this guy named Ben, and he was like almost like a ghost white and had dyed his hair black, really black, and he had gone to the dentist and had his teeth chiseled into vampire type teeth.
Oh wow.
People just thought he was so odd and just so off left center, and he and I just got along so well just because I was just like, you're interesting, let me talk to you. And then cheerleaders and the jocks and the theater people. So all of that was interesting. I was also, though, on the flip side, definitely bullied for many years, just for different things. Sometimes it would be because I didn't have nice clothes, or my hair wasn't done, or wasn't done the right way or something, and that definitely stuck with me throughout the years and has shaped how I treat people, I think. So I think I was just a little oddball, really observing people from a very early age, and definitely wanted to be connected to people.
Yes, no. You used to watch people and think about what they were like at home or what their life was like, and just kind of curious. But do you think that you were naturally really ambitious, or maybe some of the bullying came into making you want to have something bigger?
No, I didn't have any kind of superhero origin story. Like, I'm gonna make it despite of it all. It was really, I've always just been super open to people, curious about people. The curiosity, I think, is something that kind of is the thread here throughout my life. And the ambition was always there. It was more about, I guess what would be the origin story is that I did watch my mom struggle financially, and we went through many times where we moved a lot because we couldn't pay the rent, so we'd have to go to a new place. Oftentimes I do my homework in the dark because we couldn't pay the light bills and things like that. And when it hit me the most was when we weren't able to afford like health stuff, things for, when my mom, if she wasn't working at the time, which was few and far between, but if she wasn't, or once I passed 18 and wasn't on her insurance, those things hit me really hard. I never wanted to be in a position where I was not able to pay for health. It's much like the origin story from from Daddy Warbucks, from Annie.
Yeah. Yes,
absolutely. So I kind of said to myself early on, I'm going to be wealthy no matter what, and I'm going to do so that I don't have to watch someone that I care about be in pain and not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of explains what I was going to ask about, because there's so many parts of it. I mean, in your book, every chapter is dedicated to another uphill battle in a way. Mm-hmm. That out of all of these things, what was the most challenging?
I don't know if I know a most challenging. I think the overall idea of going from scratch, going from negative really to raising a few $1 million. Doing that in the amount of time that I did it, there were so many things in between and before that were difficult. But I think that was just like, when I look back on it now, going into our 5th year anniversary of having Backstage Capital.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. When I look at it, I'm just like, oh, okay, now I understand why people are kind of paying attention, because that was kind of crazy. When I'm in it, I couldn't really see it as much. But when I look back on it and say, I think about so many times that I was rejected, or we were rejected, or something that didn't work out. And then to see on even with that, we're almost at 150 companies invested in, and we've seen thousands of companies come through, and all with that, in my opinion, a playing ground that was not built for me or the people that I was investing in. And I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, surely.
But I look at it as several small mountains to climb.
Yeah, no, definitely. I also worked in the music industry for a long time, booking tours. I mean, the infamous story of the Norwegian punk band, and doing that for a long time. I mean, almost 9 years or something like that, and having a music magazine, and then jumping into Backstage Capital and trying to become a venture capitalist. I mean, how does that jump happen? And I mean, before that even, what was it like working in the music industry? What were the biggest takeaways? Do you have any regrets, or was that really just meant to happen?
Well, I mean, the music industry, so I worked, from most of the time that I worked in music, it was actually really independent. I started at 21 booking the Norwegian pop punk band called Golden Boy, who are still friends of mine almost 20 years later.
Wow.
Started booking them just out of a fluke, kind of just stumbled upon their music one day on a mini disc player that tells you what time it was, and really was excited by them. It just kind of, it was cute to me. It wasn't anything more than that. And I just wanted to see them play. So I got in touch with them on email and just said, hey, I want to book a tour for you. And I didn't know how to book a tour. I didn't know how to book a show, let alone a tour around the country for a foreign band. But I taught myself how to do that. And it took a while. And that's all kind of in the book, how I did that. But did that 2 summers in a row, caught the bug, had already caught the bug with my first concert, 13, watching Janet Jackson in the front row, yes, which I also kind of go through, and just really wanted to be around that energy. There's a certain energy to it, just traveling circus type of thing. So that was all really independent. I did that for a few independent artists, mostly solo artists and singer-songwriters. It's actually the singer-songwriters that I went on the road with had a lot. It was oftentimes more difficult to manage their tours than like 5 Norwegian boys, because it was like, you have to kind of figure that out too. But it was such a great challenge and really exciting. And then worked my way up through many, many different lives and twists and turns to being a production coordinator and a road manager on the road with people at the time who were doing big things like CeeLo Green, but mostly, Tony Braxton was a real highlight, and Jason Derulo was really fun to work with, and people like that, and it that was when I was starting to really find my way and kind of find my stride, and could certainly like take the direct line of what I learned on the road and the things that happened and things that I was able to accomplish there to working with founders. I don't think I have any regrets in general when it comes to things that decisions I made or things like that. There are a couple of times on the road where some really weird things happened, like not so great things happened. And I regret that those things happened, but I was really proud of myself and how I handled them. And I would say the road was probably 90% awesome.
Well, at least really interesting to see going from an industry where I think Black success is a bit more common. It's like music, sports, that's kind of a place where they say, okay, here you guys can win. But
I have to push back on that, because where I was in the touring production world, that is not the case. In the touring production world, it is mostly white men. Which again, the reason you say this, because I don't talk about it as much, but it's very true. Like, it's mostly white men. I remember writing to the CEO of Live Nation, which is the largest concert promoter in the world, and his name is Michael Rapino, and I sent him an email. I found his email through different means, sent him an email probably 7 years ago, and I was like, hey, I love what you're doing, but you gotta make a way for more Black women to be tour managers and to like run things. When you saw Black women in touring, you saw them, if you saw them at all on the behind the scenes side, you really did see them. Like, if they're behind the scenes, maybe they were a production coordinator like me, which is like a people person kind of job. Never saw a tour manager unless it was Tina Ferris, who was the Roots tour manager, and maybe Charity Lohman, which is like, again, like assistant tour manager for for Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles and things like that. But really didn't see it. Saw thousands of others.
Generally, so just
and so to me, I know that the idea was to kind of make it a big stretch, but actually that world primed me for it, because I was just like, anytime I'm in a world where it doesn't look equal and doesn't seem fair, it's like I got to speak out about it. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like my mind can't handle the disarray. It doesn't make sense, so I say I got to make it make sense.
No, definitely. I mean, in general, you just find that most places are unequal. Most institutions, as they are right now, are unequal. But so you jump into venture capital, total switch up. What?
Yeah, even whiter, even maler.
Even whiter,
more
even maler.
Affluent.
Exactly. Even more, privileged.
Fairly privileged. Yeah, out the wazoo.
Exactly.
In some cases,
and that happens, and you start to build this. I mean, what is that like? Like, if you were to retell it to somebody who's about to, in the same position as you were before entering it, what's the feeling? What's happening? What's the environment like? What are the types of people you're speaking to?
Well, if I'm going back in time, because it's a different landscape today, and hopefully we had something to do with that at Backstage. Just a few years ago, it just seemed like I was just really foreign to people. Like, they just couldn't wrap their heads around me, just saying very specific, normal things like, it is weird that everybody at your company is white. Or it is weird that the first 10 employees you have who are all executives are white men. Or call me crazy, but how do you expect to find wonderful Black founders as an investor with no one Black on your investment team. These types of things were just foreign and almost ridiculous to people as something you would bring up. And I was told many times that I was kind of stepping out of, I was speaking out of turn, I was stepping out of my lane, I needed to be quieter. I remember early on, after I had a few investors, which again, it's a whole story, but I remember early on, I would say things online, because I still do. You find me on Instagram or Twitter at Arlan Was Here, and you're going to find me talking, right? But maybe 2015 and 16 when I was talking, even 17 when I was talking, I would get DMs from people who would be like, who would just be like these grown people who would say, who work in venture or in startups, who would say, you need to be quiet about this topic, or you need to calm down. Or my favorite was when they would contact one of my investors to tell one of my investors to calm me down about something. And I get the message from an investor who was concerned and said, well, I just wanted to pass this on to you. And I would just be like, and then I would go back online. I say, okay, whoever just sent that to my investor, look, like, who do you think you are? Who do you think I am? Because you're mistaken about both. I mean,
oh my goodness.
And so it was just like this, I had to rattle a lot of cages. And I knew that. I went into it not knowing how long things would take or how difficult things would be. I certainly thought people were going to be more true to their word than they have been. That's the one thing that if I were like starting over, I want that foresight, because I wouldn't have given so much time and energy to certain people who were just honestly kind of toying. I used to say it was like, when a cat has like a toy and they bat it back and forth. That's how I feel sometimes with millionaires and billionaires. But ultimately, going into it, I knew it was just going to be it was going to be a battle, and that I had to get prepared for that. So I think anybody starting out just has to be really eyes wide open, not looking at any of this. Like if you're trying to start a fund, there's just like 1 in a million chance that you're going to be wealthy out the gate. There's, really successful out the gate. Most of it is like, just like starting a company. If you're looking for that $1 million TechCrunch headline, you shouldn't be starting the company. More than likely, you're going to go through so many downs that the headline is just like one piece of the story. And behind the scenes, man, I might have raised $1 million, but it took me 3 years and 1,000 phone calls and 99 pieces of heartache. And I don't know. It's just I don't want to make it seem like you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't go out there and do it. I'm just saying I've been there. So why shouldn't I tell you how it really is? Yeah. So that you can be even better prepared than I was.
Definitely. I mean, I think you had a quote that was, it took a long time to become an overnight success. And I think that
that's somebody's it's very true. Yeah.
And what I also think is interesting that a lot of, for example, even the platform that I've started, it's dedicated to women, and specifically women of color, with a focus on Black women. And often people who interact with me think that, oh, this is such a nice thing to do. Like, this is such a charitable thing, or like you with your fund, this is like a nice, good thing to do. You're taking care of LGBT plus founders, women, people of color. Like, this is kind of this charitable project, but you outline, and I think it's important to say that this is not charitable. This is a strategy, right? And
it's a strategy. It is, I think people, many people have said it much more eloquently than I can, but people really, really think that they're doing something. They're being somebody's hero by collaborating and competing with Black and brown people in general and founders of companies. People still have this hero complex, as if somehow they're helping out this down and out person. And the truth of the matter is, more times than not, even if that white person is poor, they still have a privilege that they have enjoyed since the day they were born that puts them on gives them an advantage over the person that we're talking about. And that person we're talking about, the Black or brown founder, has still, even with those odds, beaten those odds to get to where they are. So I don't, I'm not great at math or anything like that, but I think if you put this on a board and you chart the trajectory of where these two people are based on what the resources they had, sure, a Black and brown person is going to start lower, but if they're meeting you somewhere, let's say they're meeting you at 30, meeting you at 40, man, watch out for what's going to happen the next 30 or 40 years, right? You're going to peak, you're going to level off, and they're going to just go towards the moon. And so the point here is not to think, oh, I'm letting them in and I'm going to give them my precious money and my precious time. Man, think about I hope they let me into their round. I hope they let me get a piece of this rocket fuel. If I can just taste the ether of the air on the trail that they blaze, I'll be lucky. That's how they should be thinking about it. That's how I think about it every day.
Mic drop. But I think just to kind of get the gold nuggets out, but what for somebody, asking for a friend, for somebody who's starting now with the environment now, with things progressing a little bit and things what do you think you would recommend for someone like yourself wanting to get into venture capital or wanting to get into the financial world, let's say? What do you have any
I'd say go for it. Go for it, but know what you want to do. There are many different routes you can take. Know what's going to have the most impact for you. And again, it doesn't have to be social justice impact. It can be a lot of different types of impact. Kind of study. We have there's books, there's It's About Damn Time, there's there are studies out there, there's free and paid for studies out there. Know more than your competition, and also just take the time to figure out what you want to do, because my opinion is you are going to be able to do anything that you set your mind to. You are going to make it work, because if you're listening to this and you feel like this is relating to you, I bet you're that type. You're going to make whatever you want happen. So you better be sure you know what you want. You got to know where to point the rocket. Where are you trying to land? And so taking a little extra time to really think about, I think the most successful people I've seen kind of in this, not like older people who have been around for a while, but like people who are in it right now. Not that I kind of said that wrong, but I don't mean that older people are not in it, but people who are just getting started or people who have been in it for just a little bit. The best thing that they could do is take some time early on and figure things out, plot and plan, strategize, set that course for yourself, chart that course. And I will clean up a mess I just made and say that if you're 70, 80 years old starting out, please don't think this is for anybody else. This is yours. I say this so much this year, more so than ever, is that all of this is ours. We have inherited it all. Every single one of us in this country has inherited this country equally. We need to now claim that equally.
But just trying to get the final bits. The piece on authenticity, I think that's something that comes up a lot. I guess in the broadest sense, what are some ways people can be authentic and really be themselves? Because I think you do get a bit lost in when you're pretending to be something else for so long, it kind of becomes part of you and who you are. But striving for being authentic and being able to put up with potentially the consequences of being that, losing some people. And
well, I'll have to end on this question just because of time, but I will say that one thing that really blew my mind, it took me into my late 30s to figure this out, is that there's only one of you, right? There's only one of you. That in itself is like your biggest asset and your biggest kind of your differentiator. There's only one person who can tell your story, who can live your life, who can do the things that you can do in the way that you do them in your style. It's just a fact. So to me, not being authentic is a liability. To me, anything that you lose because you're being authentic wasn't worth having to begin with. So it is easier said than done, but you got to start somewhere with it. It has to start with the idea of like, I want to be authentic. I want to kind of step into my own, because you're going to find the people who, I say, be yourself so the people looking for you can find you. You're going to find the people, they're going to be attracted to you, and vice versa. The people and the situations and the opportunities that are meant for you. You are. But every single time, this is just what I know. I can go by what I know and what I've seen and understand. And that's every time I've tried to stray, thinking, oh, let me get more cookie cutter. Let me be more palatable for somebody else. Every single time it's betrayed me. The only times that I have the reason that we're on this conversation right now is because I made an impression. How are you going to make an impression if you're blending in? How does that happen? Right? So it just has to be part of your strategy. It has to be part of your arsenal. It can't be something that you think of as like a soft skill. It has to be the skill. Being yourself is it's the foundation of starting what you will one day accomplish. And again, set your sights, know where you want to go, and then just put pedal to the metal.
Yeah, great words to end on. And thank you so much. I mean, really, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, and I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.